I've been noticing that I completely unintentionally have been covering different genres throughout doing this segment. So I thought I'd continue with different ones and do sci-fi.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that trend's going to be broken next week, though.
Yeah.
But we'll get back. I'll do a western at some point. I think I know what that one's going to be. So, for the longest time, I wasn't big on sci-fi because I thought it was just a bunch of, I guess, nonsense. But I have since, because of because of these two movies, probably, I've got a greater appreciation of it.
Okay.
Like, maybe somewhere down the road I'll watch movies that I hate right now, like Blade Runner. And maybe I'll have a better understanding of them.
Okay.
In the meantime, I intentionally did these together because people probably may not remember how similar they are. They're actually quite similar.
Okay. Because I've never seen the first Matrix, so I don't know what the similarities in these movies are.
They both involve. Remember, I'm a little new to the sci-fi love thing, so my terminology might be off. Fuck. This is a very touchy subject on the internet. Sci-fi is.
Yeah.
This is probably the best place you're liable to find insane fans. No offense if you're one of them. Stop poking your monitor with a knife, please.
You're going to dent your monitor. You don't have to replace that glass for the 15th time this week.
Yeah. No disrespect to him or anything, or people that like him, but I am involving a Nolan movie, and you know how some of their fans can be. So, okay. They both involve, there's the real world, and then there's the not real world.
The alternate reality, which is the cryptic comment for this video.
Because you have, in the Matrix there's the real world and there's the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Inception there's the real world and the dream world.
Yep.
The Matrix is like this. Like, the real world looks like shit, and it's just dark and old and just like endless nothingness. And this is a simulation, basically. Yeah. So, and both movies really stem on, there's a lot of talk in The Matrix about not knowing whether you're dreaming or you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, I complained about this in the Wolverine review, but it actually works here because there's a purpose for it. But in The Matrix, there's a lot of scenes of Neo waking up from a nightmare that we thought was real.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it says in IMDb's trivia, Neo wakes up 7 times in the movie. Throughout the movie.
It's crazy.
And you have your things in these other worlds that are out to get you, be it the agents or the projections. Mm-hmm. I think that's what they were called. It's actually been some time since I watched Inception all the way through. But, and of course they both fall in the same structure. Mm-hmm. Which they're often criticized for, but it's they're known for being these hardcore action movies, but both movies deal in the first half is endless exposition.
Yes.
So you know what the fuck is going on.
Of course.
The second half is nothing but action.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they have a lot of similarities. That being said, I guess we should go into to avoid a draw, I did 7 categories.
Okay.
We'll start with our lead characters. Neo and Cobb. Once again, Keanu Reeves is battling an acclaimed actor. Last time he battled Bruce Willis, now he's battling DiCaprio.
Yep.
And I base this, I guess, on performance and mainly the characters themselves, but also the actor's performance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I already have this one figured out. And my reasoning is they really go out of the way to make Cobb a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Because Maul committed suicide because she couldn't tell the difference between dreams and reality anymore.
Correct.
She, if I remember correctly, she thought she was in a dream when she jumped out the window.
That is correct.
So that's what happened. And then, he hasn't seen his kids in forever, and he's wanting to get this. He got caught up with Ken Watanabe's stuff, and then that other company, and now he's wanted dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he's talking to Eames, he says he doesn't know if he's wanted dead or alive, and Eames says the line, "I don't know. Let's see if they start shooting." And it's this whole sympathetic backstory they give him that drives him why he does the things he does in the movie. Neo really has no background. He, Hugo Weaving gives us some background on him, but it's just how boring his life is. He helps his landlady take out the garbage, and I can't imitate Hugo Weaving because he's just
Hugo Weaving.
Yes.
That's way to put it.
But he's a generally likable character though. Apparently, Mr. Anderson is actually even if he has a really boring, not going anywhere life.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy or anything.
No.
The Oracle says she senses that he has a good soul in him. As far as performances go, DiCaprio does put a lot into his performance, even though a lot of people think DiCaprio has a lot of backlash in his career.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think he overdoes it and he tries too hard. And this was the reputation that Keanu has as an actor came from this. I guess a little bit of Bill and Ted in there too.
Yeah.
His he has 2 lines in this movie that are quoted endlessly. I know Kung Fu. And when he sees Morpheus jump from one building to the other, his response is simply, whoa.
A little bit of Point Break in there as well.
So, what's his line? Are we going to jump or are we going to jerk each other off?
Yeah.
The Robot Chicken sketch where Swayze thinks it over and then we just see the door of the plane shut. Okay, so, but the thing is I suppose it's also hard to distinguish because they're so different. Cobb gets to run around and fire guns and do all that stuff, but they morph Neo into this massive action hero.
Yeah. As
you can see. Made the trench coat famous and everything.
Indeed.
And the sunglasses.
Which I'm staring at right as we speak.
So, they tend to... I suppose it's, it's difficult to compare them, I guess, because they're such different characters, but the one thing that really stands out is where they're so busy shoving Cobb's sympathetic story down our throats that they don't do anything to really make him likable. I know he's emotionally scarred and he's he's a lone wolf until he gets back to his family, and he's a criminal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Neo really has no reason to be likable in this movie either because of all the shit he goes through.
Yeah.
But he still is. I guess it's the naivete he brings with him to all this. I read this. This is really interesting to me.
Okay.
This goes to the exposition too. What was it? Neo has no more than 5 lines at a time, and he has 80 lines through the whole movie, and 44 of them are questions.
Wow.
I think that's the statistic.
That's crazy.
But you know, it makes sense. You grab a guy that works in an office building and put him in this world. Yeah, most of his dialogue is probably questions.
He'll be a little inquisitive.
So, you know, I don't think they did enough with Cobb than they could have. I think they just shoved sympathetic stuff in our faces with him, and they thought that would be enough, but they could have given him a bit more of a... Say what you will about Keanu Reeves' acting, he was able to give Neo a distinctive personality.
Yeah.
I don't really get much from Cobb. So, I'll give this point to The Matrix. To Neo, I guess. Next we'll go to the supporting cast members, of course. Which, you could say, you know, Lawrence Fishburne is a co-lead, or maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt's a co-lead. But I'll say a supporting character is anybody that's not Neo or Cobb.
That's
just
fair.
for argument's sake.
It's a fair way to do things.
Alright, where do we start? We'll start with Inception. Let's see who all we have. I'm going to try to go down the cast list without looking at it. We have Sato, who is Watanabe.
Mm-hmm.
We have Arthur, who is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We have Maul, who is Marion Cotillard. Ariadne, who is Ellen Page. Fisher, who is Cillian Murphy. Eames, who is Tom Hardy. Browning, who is Tom Berenger, and the unfortunately useless Michael Caine.
You flipped a couple of the names, but yeah, you got pretty much all of them in a row.
Also, for some reason, he's not very advertised in the movie. We also have Pete Postlethwaite as Fisher Senior, who gets like one line, but it's a very crucial line, by the way. And Lucas Haas is Nash, the guy that fucks up the first job. The first job in the movie. Let's see. Oh, we also have the guy from Avatar. The guy with the best agent in the world, because he had this and Avatar back to back. I can't remember his real name. But he's the guy that drives the van. And he created the sedative.
Yeah, he's cool.
A lot of people complained that these characters were used as props. Like, Arthur is there just to, you know, make things happen. Ariadne's there to be an exposition machine. Like, Ariadne's there, they say she's the audience role. She's there to be what Neo does. She's there to ask questions so people can answer them to the audience.
Of course.
We'll get to exposition in a minute. And they say they don't have any place to act, but I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of acting in Inception. Particularly, the best performance in the movie is Cillian Murphy's. And Hardy, too.
Yeah.
But Murphy gets a lot of... For a sci-fi action movie, Murphy has a lot of emotional scenes. Murphy's emotions are the whole point of the story. They're what's... It lets you know they're succeeding.
Yeah.
The scenes where he talks to Berenger... Or he's talking to Hardy, who is disguised as Berenger. And of course, you know, the interesting thing they have to do with Maul, where Maul is basically the villain. But according to Arthur, she was really lovely in real life when she was alive. So we see Maul in flashbacks, or the scene at the end where she breaks down. And then we see, you know, villain Maul. A lot of people hate Marion Cotillard in American movies because... For some reason, she can really bring it when she's in, like... I think she's French.
That sounds right.
I'm not good with that kind of thing. I'm sorry.
I think it is French, actually.
But when she does an American movie, she just can't seem to bring it. See The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think they tend to do the main focus in supporting characters will be. It is unfortunate that Arthur didn't get to do much. I mean, he does a lot as far as physically, like the hallway fight, which is another thing we'll touch on in a minute. But I guess that's what they mean by the actors were used as props. But I think how much acting needed to go into Inception is overlooked and underrated, and people need to look a little more into it than because Inception is one of those movies that was a massive victim of the. There were fans that maybe overreacted to Nolan because they love every single thing that he does,
Mm-hmm.
and there's people who take that out on the movie, which is completely illogical, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
I guess because they have no other direction to throw their hatred in or whatever.
They don't like their fans, so they take it out on the movie. I've done that before, I'll admit that. Like the Twilight movies.
And Avatar for some reason.
Never liked Avatar.
But then, so then we go into The Matrix, which kind of lacks here.
Yeah.
There's 3 great characters in the supporting cast. The rest, not so much.
Kind of just jumbled together.
The ones not so much are, to be honest, Trinity. I like Carrie-Anne Moss in movies like Memento and even in she wasn't in Disturbia very much, and I've seen her in a few other things, but I don't know if it's the character maybe, but which doesn't say much because we're talking about the characters.
Yeah.
The character is just, she's known for being, badass. She does the running, she does the flips, she has the motorcycle, she's got the black leather, and, she's being all badass. But when Trinity's being, human and, interacting, it doesn't really work, at least for me. And there's the whole her and Neo love story thing, which never clicked with me. I have no idea why that plot point was thrown in there. But, we'll get to that when we get to the writing, but, and then there's the side characters on the crew, some of them, there's Tank, who is likable, and there's Mouse, who gets a couple of good scenes. But then you have, Dozer, who is just there to be Tank's brother and to die tragically. And you have APOC and Switch, who are... They're kind of important in their first scene, but then after a while they're just kind of there to stand in the background, and they're also there just to die tragically. Which, makes them kind of boring, because they don't really do anything in the middle. They're just background, to show they have a full crew. However, we do have Lawrence Fishburne, who is great in this movie. Even if he's the exposition machine, Lawrence Fishburne has a very distinguishable voice. A lot of people tend to like. Apparently, he does a lot of audiobooks, to my understanding. And there's a reason for that. And he's a really good voice actor too. When I saw Osmosis Jones, I had no idea that he's the villain in that movie for the longest time. He's a really good voice actor, and despite the fact that he's in it physically, his voice is a very prominent role in the movie because his first couple of scenes we hear him on the phone, and he's this mythical person. And then, like I said, he has to give us all this exposition. But he's just got that delivery and that voice that it moves along great. And you have Hugo Weaving, who I already praised earlier, who is just perfect in this part. This is one of those parts where I cannot picture anybody else as Agent Smith. He's just got that... He's emotionless without being boring. He's emotionless without being. He can be menacing while he's being emotionless.
Okay.
But then there's the times where during the subway fight where he gets this. Hugo Weaving's evil look is one of the scariest fucking things ever.
Agreed.
When he says the line. He's got Neo in a headlock, and the train's coming for them, and he says, do you hear that, Mr. Anderson? That is the sound of inevitability. And he's got that look on his face.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, you have Joe Pantoliano as Cypher. One of the great double-crossers in movie history. Cypher's my favorite character in the movie. Because he's this... hardcore villain disguised as a good guy. But he's not... He's such a wise ass. His disguise as a good guy is actually not a very good one, if you know that he's a bad guy. what happens is, obviously he lives in the real world, but what happens is he goes in, what the thing was, when you meet Morpheus for the first time, he offers you the red pill and the blue pill. The red pill takes you into the real world. The blue pill lets you continue leading life inside the Matrix, completely oblivious, not knowing anything about the real world. Well, Cypher makes a deal with the agents to let him go back into the Matrix and live life oblivious. And he's willing to turn all of them over to the agents in order to get that from them. You know, he's saying, like, not only do I want to be in the Matrix, but I want to be rich. And I want to be somebody important, like an actor. He calls himself Mr. Reagan. He's eating a steak, and he talks about how in the real world it's nothing, but in the Matrix it's, like, juicy and delicious. He's a very, you can see, he's got the sinister facial hair. He's like this, he's like something you'd expect out of, like, when he's inside the Matrix, you almost expect him to be like one of those 1930s, or maybe like a 1950s David Niven villain or something. And then he just goes fucking insane, and starts, when you're unplugged in the real world, and you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. So that's what happens to Apoc and Switch. He fries Dozer with that, whatever the fuck that blasting thing is, and then he unplugs Apoc and Switch. And it's this really great scene. And he's talking about he's talking to Carrie Moss over the phone, and he's saying, like, because of this you have to watch Apoc die, and he unplugs Apoc, and then Switch is standing there with this worried look on her face, and he just says, oh, by the way, if you have anything, like, severely important to say to Switch, now's the time. And then he unplugs her and says, too late. And then he has this really sinister line. I love this line reading. It's the look on his face and what he's saying. He's talking about them torturing Morpheus. And he says, I'm probably paraphrasing a bit, but they're basically torturing Morpheus, and they're basically going to kill him. And he says, I want to walk into the room right when it happens. Like, just as he's about to die, I want to walk into the room just so he knows that it was me. Nice.
Very sinister.
Unfortunately, Cypher dies in that scene, because he shoots Tank with the same thing he kills with Dozer with. We know Neo's the one. It's not a huge... If you haven't seen the movie, it's a big deal, but... Obviously, it's old news. Neo's obviously the one, because Neo is an anagram. He shoots Tank twice, and he's killed Dozer and Apoc and Switch. And then he's getting ready to unplug Neo, and he says, Neo can't be the one if he's dead. If Neo is the one, some miracle is going to have to occur right now to stop me from unplugging him. And sure enough, Tank comes back to life and kills Cypher.
Of course.
So, yeah. Having said all that, I guess it would have to go to Inception. Because you have great characters like Morpheus, Cypher, and Agent Smith on the side. But you have those other characters that aren't very interesting. Whereas in Inception, despite popular belief, pretty much every person in this massive cast list has something to do.
Yeah, I agree.
People even talk about how wasted Michael Caine is, but there's even a little, like, because Caine is his father-in-law. So when Cobb is telling him the whole pouring out why he has to do this job, Caine does have to do at least a little bit of acting in that scene. So everybody in the Inception cast has something to do. And as I can't express enough, I think how much acting to have to go into Inception is underrated.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Alright, next I guess we'll go into, I guess the best action scene, particular action scene. Both of these movies have an iconic action scene that I want to do battle with.
Okay.
There's the lobby shootout in The Matrix. And there's the hallway, the rotating hallway in Inception. The ultimate geek out moment, probably in any 90s movie that I can think of. There are a lot of geek out moments in many movies in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But then The Matrix came sweeping in the, I think it was the spring of 99 actually. I think it was in March.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the biggest geek out moment of the 90s is that fucking score coming on. And you hear that score booming. And you see the revolving door open. And you see Neo's boots come in. And you can see that he's wearing a trench coat. And he goes through the metal detector. And the security guard says, I'm going to need to check you for any type of metal or anything else you might have on you, metallic. And Neo opens the coat, and from head to toe he's covered in guns. And this massive-ass shootout takes place. It lasts for like 3 minutes. And there's, you know, the flipping and the cartwheeling and the slow-mo and the people flying across rooms. And it's probably the... I don't know. I'd say the ultimate iconic scene of The Matrix is probably the bullet time.
Yeah.
But this is definitely another one of those. This is probably under bullet time for iconic Matrix scenes. When you're talking iconic Matrix scenes, you're talking about almost the whole movie, so that's a big deal to be under bullet time. However, I didn't get the wonderful opportunity of seeing The Matrix theatrically. However, I did see Inception theatrically many times.
Yes.
You know, because you were there.
Yeah, we did that numerous times.
The midnight show, for starters.
Then it just went on from there, like days in, like watching it every day.
The trailer gave us a taste of the hallway fight,
Ooh.
but they didn't really blow any money shots.
Nope.
They just showed us, like, Arthur flying. And we had no idea what the fuck that was about.
But it made you more excited to see the movie.
Well, when I saw this scene for the first time, I didn't know how they shot. I didn't know the whole rotating set thing. I didn't know how the fuck they accomplished this. Because Joseph Gordon-Levitt said many times in interviews, he did his own stunts. The whole scene is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. This $1 million actor.
Yes.
In this particular scene where the hallway starts to turn as the van is turning. And he's propped up in a doorway. He's holding himself up in a doorway.
Mm.
And he comes down. This shot blew my goddamn mind. He's running on the wall, and without a single cut, runs down the wall and then onto the floor, and then fights the guy, and then he and the guy start to tussle, and they roll onto this wall.
Yeah, it was insane.
And then they end up on the ceiling. And then they end up, you know, going into other rooms and shit, and... The scene is fucking wild.
Yeah, to say the least.
Like, I wanted to just stand up out of my seat when I saw this shit, and it helped when I had no idea how they did it. And it's a little bit of the magic is gone now that I've seen the behind-the-scenes shit, but regardless, there's a reason that scene, like one of the big publicity stills was him walking on the wall while the hallway was turned over. But when you saw it just as a still, you didn't know what the fuck was happening. And I love the idea of the whole, whatever's happening to you in real life affects the dream. Mm. So him spinning in the van is making the entire set of the dream do the same. So, yes, as awesome as the hallway, as awesome as the lobby shootout is, and as iconic as it is, it's even got that score that you... once you hear it, you know...
Inception's got that score, too.
Once you hear the Matrix score, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's a song as opposed to a score. But, and yeah, the Zimmer score, of course. The very booming, iconically booming. Like, yes. Every time a score booms in its trailer, everybody points at Inception and says, "Look what you did."
Dawn.
So yeah, individual action scene for the hallway fight, I would give Inception.
Okay.
However, the next category is overall action.
Okay.
That's a different story. Okay. The thing about it is their flows are a little different, because Inception, you start with an action scene, you have a lot of exposition, then you have an action scene, exposition. It's kind of a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
The Matrix is pretty much after Cypher gets killed and they're interrogating Morpheus. The entire last half hour of the movie is one big-ass action set piece after another until the very end. Like, it literally goes non-stop until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fucking massive. We start with the lobby shootout. Then after the lobby shootout, they're on the roof, and that's where the bullet time happens. And the very, everybody loves the scene where, Neo has done the bullet time, and then he ends up getting shot in the shoulder and leg, and he falls. And then he shoots at the agent, and the agent is able to do the, moving side to side and avoid all the bullets. And then just as he's avoided all the bullets, the agent's really proud of himself. And then he just turns, and Trinity's gun is right here in his face, and she says, "Dodge this," and gives him a headshot.
Nice.
And then there's the great scene where they, also we learn in the Kung Fu scene, all you need to do to get knowledge is have Tank program it into your head. That's
Okay.
how he knows everything he knows about Kung Fu. Tank just press some buttons on a computer and voila, it's in there. There's this big ass helicopter on this roof and they've got to make a getaway. So he looks to Trinity and says, "Do you know how to fly this helicopter?" And she says, "Oh, not yet." And she calls up Tank and tells him the make of it. And then there's like a second and then she blinks and she says, "Okay, let's go." And then there's the great scene where we see them continuing to torture Morpheus. And then we see the helicopter in the window, and Neo has that big ass gun, and we zoom in on Hugo Weaving, and his response is simply, "No." And then Neo just blasts the holy fuck out of this room. And then, if that wasn't enough, Morpheus manages to break free and runs for the helicopter, but he gets shot in the leg on his way out, and he can't make the jump. So Neo straps himself to the, I guess, some kind of bungee cord. And he jumps and meets Morpheus halfway in the midair. And then the helicopter begins to fly off, with the two of them hanging off of it, True Lies style. And then, if that wasn't enough, this helicopter crashes into a building and explodes. The helicopter and the building. So Trinity has to swing out of the helicopter as it smashes into this building directly behind her. And then once that action scene's over, they go down to the subway where they're going to use the phone. The phone is how they get back from the Matrix into the real world. Mm. Tank has to call them back in, basically. And then that's where the big-ass fight happens between him and Agent Smith. And then Morpheus and Trinity are back in the real world on the ship, and then the Sentinels, which are the squid-like machines that try to destroy them. Mm-hmm. So simultaneously, you have them in the real world fighting the Sentinels, and Neo fighting Agent Smith. This is all happening at the same time.
Good God.
And then once that's over, the movie is basically over. Like, you have the final scene with Neo narrating, and then it ends. Inception does have good action scenes, though, like the chase in the streets, where the fucking train interrupts.
That was amazing.
And then you have the scene we love with the driver having to fight the guys on the motorcycle while he's trying to drive the van,
One of the
which ends
greatest
up
things
wrecking.
ever.
The opening action scene is good too. It feels a little sloppy, but it's, you know. I guess you can consider the big kick scenes action scenes as well. But as far as overall action, you know, the entire last 40 minutes of The Matrix is just so fucking off the chain. You have to see it to believe it. So overall action goes to The Matrix. What's the score now?
2-2.
All right. So next we'll do. Oh God, I don't know how to do this one. I guess next we'll do direction. That would be the Wachowskis versus Nolan.
Good God. Better you than me, sir.
All right. Well, they both have really distinct feels. Like, I don't know what it is exactly. I really cannot put my finger on it, but you can tell with movies like this and Fight Club and numerous others. Dark City. They actually used sets from Dark City in The Matrix, and you can really tell. Apparently the late 90s had a distinct feel, specifically 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I watch The Matrix, just by the way it looks and the way it feels, I feel like it's 1999 again. I don't know what they did or how they did it or what I'm even talking about, but
me neither, but that's okay.
For some reason, 1999 had this distinct feel where when you're watching a movie from 1999, you somehow know it was made in 1999 just by looking at it.
Everyone's thinking the world's going to end the next year and everything. The Prince song is playing over and over again. So, I mean, yeah, action movies did have a different feel back then.
And, of course, Nolan has his own thing going on.
Yes.
Where, both of these movies actually won major Oscars. Obviously, they both won, like the sounds and the visual effects.
They're born award winners.
Inception took cinematography, and The Matrix took editing. Those Oscars are big deals. And they both beat out, swift competitors, too, because editing normally goes to, Best Picture winners. And cinematography, There was a movie that people were really surprised that Inception beat. I forget what it was up against now.
Social Network?
True Grit.
True Grit, that's it.
Everybody was saying True Grit was going to be Deakins' win finally.
Nope.
And Pfister beat him. And Deakins lost again with Skyfall. It's never going to happen for him.
No.
And it's always the CGI heavy movies now too. That's a controversy, I guess, now that CGI heavy movies like Inception and Hugo and Life of Pi are getting cinematography, even though they're mostly CGI, but
yeah,
it's voted on by people in the industry, particularly in the field. So I'm not gonna question it.
No.
Yeah, obviously in the Matrix's competition was American Beauty. I totally buy American Beauty winning cinematography, so that's okay. Like I said, that it won editing is a big deal because that's usually a really coveted award there.
Yeah, it usually goes to a Best Picture winner. It's one of the 3 or 4 that it has to win in order to get Best Picture.
Or something really close to Best Picture, like The Social Network and Traffic. So, oh yeah, the Wachowskis and Nolan. Okay.
And Inception did run for Best Picture, though.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, there was 10 nominees, but it still ran for Best Picture.
It's a big argument between Inception and Black Swan, but most people will tell you Inception was the 5th one.
I would say that's definitely correct.
Inception would have been the one movie to get in without a director nomination.
Yep.
And Black Swan would have been got a director nomination without picture.
Yep.
That's it. Now, they may deny it, but there are Black Swan fans that are as hostile as Nolan fans.
Yes.
Or Aronofsky fans, I guess you could say. That will kill you if you say that. But most logical thinkers that were following the race and know about that will tell you Inception was probably the 5th movie.
Easily.
Especially since it took home fucking 4 Oscars out of 8 nominations. Granted, being snubbed in editing was a...
Yeah.
I
agree with that.
That was kind of a gut punch, but I think it speaks volumes that they gave the win to Pfister.
Yes.
Because, a director and cinematographer go hand in hand. So...
True.
So, I really don't know. I guess it would have to be the Wachowskis. For the simple fact that, the way they're handled. Like I said, Inception's got its ups and downs. Like, particularly... Okay, here's the problem. Well, I keep bringing up the exposition. The exposition is its own category. That's why I'm trying to stay away from it, but I keep having to bring it up. We're mainly talking about rewatches. Inception really suffers on rewatch simply because of what they have to do. They have to. It's a complicated thing, these movies, because you absolutely have to have that in there, because when you see it for the first time, you're not going to know what the fuck's going on. But unfortunately, the stuff that you have to have in there so it makes sense the first time makes it kind of lull revisiting. The Matrix has a constant feel to it. Like, the Matrix is 12 minutes shorter than Inception, but Inception kind of feels its length. Inception has a very long ending. Like, the stuff with all the kicks and the, having to go through trouble bringing Fisher back to life. Kind of brings, and the whole going into limbo thing. Like, the whole thing kind of sets a weight on the movie that does make, I mean, it also works because it gives it an epic feel, so that works. But at 2 hours and 16 minutes, The Matrix feels like an hour, at least, at most, I guess. It just rockets through, which, you know, falls in a lot of, well, that's the thing we're talking about, is we're talking about cinematography and editing and all those important things, but obviously, last say on the cinematography, last say on the editing, all comes back to the director. Editing, it tends to be producers sometimes, but mostly the director, usually. So, I don't know, that one's complicated. But for the way, I mean, they both have their own, the important thing when you're a director is to have your own style, and both these movies clearly have their own style going. So, it's hard to say, but with how the movies flow and how they're, I really, really love Inception. Like I said, Inception was my second favorite movie of 2010, and 2010 was a great year for movies.
Yes.
The Matrix is, I don't know how to word this. This sounds like a horrible insult to Inception, but I promise it's not. The best way I can think of to put it is The Matrix is much easier to watch than Inception. Because it just feels like a... Inception has its moments of being an adrenaline rush, but then it also has to calm down, you know, do certain things to kind of... But the problem is what slows it down in between the action scenes is the mall stuff. And the mall stuff is kind of beaten over our heads through the whole movie. I think they go into it, they do it to, you know, bring on emotion, which is important. The Matrix doesn't have much emotion in it, which is where Inception succeeds over it. But they spend way too much time on the mall stuff, I think. Even though that's, you know, the whole thing that drives him, it almost feels like they're not really focusing on the task at hand when they do it too much. I don't know. Like the scene where, I know it's a big, big emotional moment, but I almost feel like the scene where he and Maul talk in limbo is too long. Now, on the other hand, The Matrix does everything it needs to do in the first hour, and then the second half is just a complete adrenaline rush for the rest of the movie, literally right up to the end. So that's why I would say the Wachowskis over Nolan. I don't know. That's what we'll go with. That was a hard one though. Next we'll finally get to exposition. This is the sixth one, right?
Yeah.
The exposition in this movie in these movies are very important. Case in point, The Matrix. What happened with The Matrix is what I use to defend Inception. There are those people who hate Nolan that try to exude how smart they are, how smart they think they are. There are so many people that will tell you they would have known exactly what was going on in Inception without all the exposition. I think that is a load of bullshit.
No lie.
I guarantee... Okay, the biggest complaint I hear about Inception is they spent way too much time explaining things. All they did was explain things, and I knew what was going on. if the exposition in Inception was not there, the main complaint would be it didn't make any sense.
Yep.
And that's what everybody would complain about. If you read up in The Matrix, this is Nolan probably learned from this, and that's probably why Inception is the way it is. The Matrix script originally did not have the exposition. It just was what it was. And Warner Brothers made them put the exposition in because it actually went about Hollywood as, in quotes, the script that makes no sense. Warner Brothers actually made the Wachowskis write in the exposition so people knew what the fuck was going on.
Makes sense.
And I would say that's probably why Nolan had to write Inception the way he did.
Okay.
Because people can, brag about how smart they are and claim they would have known exactly what was going on in Inception without the exposition. Sure.
I don't buy that.
With all the exposition, there's people that complain they think Inception makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like I guess the Forger thing loses some people, like the stuff with Hardy and Behringer.
Mm-hmm.
But and some of it still loses me. Like some of the Limbo stuff kind of loses me a little bit. But whatever. It doesn't stop me from loving it. I have enough of a grip on it to where I think I might have it, and I get by on that.
We'll go with that.
Like I said, it all comes down to how the exposition is done. Like I said, it's kind of one-sided. In Inception, pretty much everybody's doing it. Sometimes Cobb is doing exposition. Sometimes it's mostly Arthur talking to Ariadne is how it happens. I say Ariadne's name a different way every time I say it because I don't really. Sometimes I say it like Michael Caine. Sometimes I say it like DiCaprio says it. However, the only exposition machine, Lawrence Fishburne is the only person that brings exposition to The Matrix, more or less. Hugo Weaving every now and then throws in some stuff when he's talking to Morpheus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much, and some of the stuff Tank says about the technical stuff, but for the most part, our one exposition machine is just Morpheus. And like I said, Lawrence Fishburne was the perfect casting choice. Going back to that perfect casting I was talking about with Hugo Weaving.
Mm-hmm.
If you gotta have an exposition machine, having a voice as captivating as Lawrence Fishburne's was the way to go.
Agreed.
And he sometimes he even is, joking around with it, like sometimes people get to the point where they've had enough, like the scene where he's, what is real? Define real. And then there's the scene after they have the big fight, the big spar, and he's just kind of, throwing questions at Neo, and then one of them's just like, do you think that's air you're breathing? And he just kind of shrugs it off. And like I said, though, what really helps is how he's able to make the exposition captivating, whereas in Inception, it's there because it has to be. Because I can't express this enough. You fucking people, if the exposition was not in Inception, you would not know what the fuck was happening. I promise you.
True.
Trouble is it's mostly... Okay, here's the thing. The big rule everybody talks about in film is show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Because it's of course, a visual medium. The Matrix does its exposition literally like a show and tell. Like, all this shit's going down, and we're seeing the real world, and, all these visuals.
Mm-hmm.
The exposition in Inception, I feel like I'm being tutored, more or less. Like, we actually have Cobb drawing arrows on a piece of paper. Not so... I mean, sure, they do show in Inception as well. Like, they'll do a lot of exposition, and they'll say, here it is, and it'll be this fantastical scene, like Paris turning over, or the shit exploding in the street. But, it's more of a simultaneous thing in The Matrix to keep things moving. The Matrix isn't always a bunch of talking at one time. It's usually unraveling, showing us it unravel as, it's being explained, which I think works a lot better. So, the exposition point would go to The Matrix. So what's that leave the score? 4-6. Okay.
2.
Oh, 4 to 2, 6 in total. The last one, Okay. Yep. Well, The Matrix has already won because I already know the answer to this one. The last category, which I'll do anyway because I wrote it down, is creativity. And I knew from the get-go, like not from the get-go when I wrote it down, but when I was thinking about it before, in a little bit of preparation for this, if there's ever been a clear-cut draw in any category, it's which one's more creative, The Matrix or Inception. Because they got two different stories. They're similar, but they have two different things going on. And throughout both movies, there are just endless ideas happening through the whole thing. Like, whether it be rule changes or new ideas being brought out, just the creativity is constantly coming out of these movies. Like, I can't even... You just have to watch them. I can't even give you examples. It's just around every corner, some new idea is forming and adding something to the story. It adds to how captivating the movies are. So, yeah. So, 4 to 6 is not a beating.
4 to 2?
Yes, 4 to 2 is not a beating.
I would have went a different route, but I haven't seen The Matrix. But then again, I love Inception so much.
The Matrix is a hard thing to top because there's a reason The Matrix is as iconic as it is. But Inception's only 3 years old, and it has its own iconic status, which is impressive.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of scenes where, you know, you just say it and everybody knows you're talking about Inception. Just like The Matrix was in 99, and to this day. It's 14 years old now, and I think I can't remember as of when, but at one point, the bullet time sequence, not long after the movie had been released, had been parodied over 20 times in 20 different movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a long time before a sci-fi movie comes out that tops The Matrix. Because that's just... I don't know, I can't remember how long it said the Wachowskis writing the script. I think it said 5 years. I can't even begin to imagine, and Nolan too, I can't even begin to imagine how one writes these movies. This has got to be like years and years and years of thinking and laying things out and writing and coming up with creative, original ideas, but both these movies succeed in that. Like, it's unbelievable. So, that's that. Yeah. This was an epic. They'd make a fantastic double feature. You watch one right after the other, you're probably going to have one of the most amazing fucking nights of your life that doesn't involve. Okay, what's that line? Probably the best time you'll have with your clothes on.
Next week? As we cheat to figure out what next week is actually going to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
next week is totally different. Next week is also kind of its own genre, somewhat.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
And I will give you guys and girls out there the cryptic comment on the Impact Wrestling recap on Thursday.
So until then.